My friends have a 2.5-year-old toddler. 2.5-year-old.
Question
1. My friends have a 2.5-year-old toddler and a newborn. To help them out, I agreed to look after their puppy for 18 months as they raise their kids. The puppy can be a bit much, so it made sense. I'm currently 2 months in and realizing I did not think this through. The thought of giving him back in a year is really upsetting. The timing of me taking on their dog has come after the death of our family dog, and I'm healing from a toxic relationship, so I really needed a little buddy to latch onto, and that has come as my friend's dog. I also feel like I'm a better home for him as he has my full attention and has made so many friends at the local beach and dog park. The husband is keen on me having him, but the wife is on a very different page and wants the dog back in a year. I genuinely will be heartbroken if I have to give this dog back. How should I approach this with them and convince them that I should keep their dog? This is tough.
It is very hard when you have a newborn to give the same amount of attention to your animals as what you would have given them prior to having children. It's hard to give your first child the same amount of attention that you would give your child before having another one. And so I understand a little bit why she felt as though, especially with a newborn, maybe she was not coping. Is that an excuse? No. And I say this as we had 2 children really close together and we have a dog who is literally our third child. But
first child.
He's my first child. He's my baby, my buster. But I also saw how, and especially during COVID when things were just absolutely fucked in general, I did see how he didn't get as much of my attention as what he got when he was my only child. Of course, it's just like that's what happened. So part of me is like, I can understand a little bit while this mother has been like, look, can you help me to be able to make sure that my puppy, because puppies take a lot of attention, get as much attention as possible whilst I focus on my kids. The thing I don't understand by this arrangement is the length of time. 18 months is such a huge amount of time to have somebody else take care of your dog and then expect to have it back. But the reason why I am actually on the dog owner's side is because they have made those parameters, they have explained that, and you have accepted it. Even if I think it's weird, even if I don't think that someone should be giving up their dog for 18 months, the fact that the two of you agreed on that situation to start with, and now 2 months in, you're saying, oh, I want to keep this dog, I think that unfortunately it's probably not going to go your way. Now, what I would think is probably the smartest way for you to navigate this, because it isn't your dog and you don't have microchip ownership of it. You don't have legal ownership of it. You didn't pay for the dog. I'm sure they're still financially contributing to you having the dog at your house. What I think you need to do is, if you feel as though you're getting so emotionally invested that you are going to be completely bereft when you have to give this puppy back in 18 months' time, I would say you give the puppy back now. I would say, look, I didn't think this through. I didn't realize I was going to get this emotionally attached, but this is not going to be good for my mental health if in 18 months' time I'm not able to keep this dog.
Well, yeah, because the difference is you're not helping your friends out with their family dog that they've had for 5 years. This is a puppy.
It's a puppy.
It's a brand new puppy who is learning everything about life. It's learning who its family is. It's going to need a lot of training, a lot of attention, and it's going to get its own attachment issues to you. So both ways, I think this is a strange setup.
And I agree with you, Brett.
It's strange because as the family that's giving the puppy up for a small amount of time, I understand why, for sure, but the dog, because you paid for it, doesn't make it yours in a way where it's like this other person, this other woman is going to be raising it it's going to be nearly 2 years old and you haven't even had it. The other family hasn't even had it at all. It's got no attachment to that family. So I don't even think it's fair on the dog to start with before we even get into humans. The dog's not going to know what weigh's up. Secondly, I agree with you, Laura. If you think you're going to get an attachment to this dog, which you already have after only like 2 or 3 months, then I would say, I don't think I can take this dog because I already don't want to give it back to you. Like as a joke, like I'm already obsessed and thinking of moving away with it anyway. Like ha ha ha. But seriously, I don't think I can take this dog because in 18 months, like I'm going to have a real attachment to it. There is a part of me that, and I don't want to say this because there's a high chance it doesn't happen, but there's a part of me that thinks like 18 months might come around and they might understand that, wow, this is actually your dog, and they might start fresh and get their own dog. You don't know, but you can't bank on that.
Yeah, this is such a weird, but also I want to just say, like, and I'm not on the owner's side. Like, I think this whole setup is so fucking weird. If you've got a 2.5-year-old and you've just had a newborn baby, why are you getting a puppy? Like, why are you purchasing a puppy for your family or acquiring a puppy for your family and then shipping it off? And when I say I understand that, you know, they're not able to take care of it, I do understand, because it's such a huge responsibility to have a newborn. It's such a huge responsibility to have a puppy. Put those two things together, it's like, it's unmanageable. But the thing is why would you make that decision when you knew you were having a baby, or assume you knew you were having a baby? So there is part of me that kind of thinks that that was such stupid management on the dog owner's side. But I guess my only thing that I keep coming back to is like the legalities around it. You don't really have a leg to stand on. I think about it with like human children, right? Kids go into the foster system and they might be with a foster family for 18 months and there still could be rehoming. I don't know what the right word is. It's not rehoming because they're non-animal, but there could still be like, you know, the reintegration with them with their birth parents, right? It's not just because you've spent a certain amount of time with someone else that you then automatically live with that family forever.
No, and I tried that with all my relationships. It doesn't work.
Doesn't work, right? But I mean, I think that this is just a really unfair situation that you've put yourself in. I would think it's a really unfair situation that you're in and that you're having to manage. The only other thing I do want to say though is like, I know that you've had these things happen. Like, you've had the death of your family dog. You've also been through a really hard time, which is why you're feeling more connected to this puppy and you really, really like emotionally need him. But that's not their problem, you know? And I think what you need to do is sit down and explain to them that because of these big things that have happened in your life, you're feeling way more connected and you're feeling way more attached than what you thought you were going to be. And I know you say that you've already spoken to the husband's okay with it, but the wife has very different plans. I just would be having some very, very honest conversations, because it sounds like everyone is on completely different pages. And maybe if you turned around and said, hey, look, if it comes to the 18-month mark, I would want to keep this dog, maybe the owners would say, okay, well, we'll take it back now then, because they might not realize the severity of this for you. The whole situation is weird. Also, I do want to say, don't get animals that you can't take care of if you're having kids, because it's so unfair on those animals. And just because you have children, your pets shouldn't become like second-grade citizens.
And at the end of the day, you're close enough with this woman and this family to take their animal for 18 months. So you're close enough to say, hey, I actually think I made a mistake and I can't do it.
Yeah.
You're close enough to have that hard conversation. And you've also, if anything, you've figured out that you are ready for a pet, which is great. Like, if it doesn't work out with this dog, you know that you can go and get a dog for yourself that's going to help you get through whatever it is that you're going through, because they do. Like, there's a reason we call them emotional support animals, because you do get attached to them and they do help you through so many things of life. But you've got to do what's right for you, because if you know in 18 months it's going to be so much more detrimental to your mental health at that time, bite the bullet now.
Britt, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, and this is going to irk some people, what are your thoughts around people who have dogs or cats or animals in general and then they rehome them once they've had children?
It makes me really angry, and I understand why some people might do it. I know of a friend that did it because they had a cattle dog. They'd had it for a long time. So it's not like they got it. They already had it. Then they got a child, and the cattle dog...
They had a child. Then they got a child. They bought
they,
that one
they
from
got
that
it, They got a child. No, but they had a child, and the cattle dog's behavior changed. It was too nippy, and they had to make a decision there that broke their heart to rehome it to a farm, because they're like, we can't actually trust our animal now around our child. That breaks my heart still, but I understand that more. But when people get an animal, you have to understand that is for life. Like, that's how I feel about it. I feel like an animal comes into your life as a family member.
I completely agree. I also, and I do want to be careful with this, because I know that there will be people listening to this who may have had to rehome their dog who they loved so much because it was the best thing also for the animals. Maybe it was stressed out. Maybe it became aggressive when it was around kids. And also, as a parent, you have to prioritize the safety of your children.
Yeah.
You don't know how, some dogs are not compatible with small children, right? That's just the case. But I do think it is a very, very stressful situation. And I also think that sometimes we are a bit too casual in how we deprioritize animals when we have kids come into our lives. Like, some people are, and that I have a real problem with. And I know that for us, there was definitely a period that was challenging. Like, when our kids were really, really little, it was challenging to give Buster like all the love and affection and nurturing that he deserved and that he'd always received alongside our kids. But that was only a small period of time, you know, and now we're back to a really great balance where everyone is happy, everyone feels loved, and we've also been able to raise our children in a way that they know how much Buster's a part of our family and how much they respect him. So they get up in the morning, they go and hug him, then they come and hug us. You know, they treat him as though he's a family member as well.
It is tricky though, and I now that we're talking about it, I want to highlight it. There are definitely so many reasons that people do need to give up their animals, and there are, you know, I know some elderly people that weren't old when they got their dog. You know, they've aged with it, but they've gotten to the point where they've taken turns in their health and they physically can't look after that dog anymore. And them giving their dog up is because they love it enough to give it the life it needs. So I have seen that as well. Cost of living, like you might get a pet or you have your family when things are amazing. And then financially, we've seen over the last few years, so much has happened. And there are a lot of people that can't afford to live. And so the first thing that's going to probably go in that situation, unfortunately, is maybe a pet that has cost you too much money. Because there are things in your life you can't change, right? You need the roof over your head, you need to feed your family, and you've got kids. I'm not saying that like I support that, but I 100% understand why sometimes it has to happen. It's more the people like I think I saw, I'm not going to name names, but I saw an influencer in the last 12 months that got a dog and she was crucified because then she was like, oh, I was just too busy for it. So she gave it up in the first year. And I was like, well, why the fuck did you get it? That pissed me off.
Also, you didn't do the research on the breed. So therefore, like you acquired a breed of dog whose lifestyle you couldn't manage because it didn't match up with your own. You probably did it more for aesthetics. Yeah. And look, I do agree completely with you. And I know that there are going to be, like I said, people who were listening to this episode who had to give up their animal after having children. And often it's because behaviorally, it doesn't match up with having kids. It's non-compatible and it's not safe for everybody in that household. So I totally understand those instances, but far out, it's really hard. And I do think that some people, maybe to a lesser extent, but some people are too casual around the place in which an animal sits within their family.